Hi, I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Boulder Valley Board of Education for Tuesday, April 24th. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Benford. Fuqua. Here. Garcia. Here. Gebhardt. Here. Marquis.
Here.
Myers. Sargent.
Here.
Okay, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to remind everybody that the mission of the Boulder Valley School District is to create challenging, meaningful, and engaging learning opportunities so that all children thrive and are prepared for successful, civically engaged lives. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for those who are watching from home. We're happy to have you here to join us this evening and talk about our topics today. And as always, we're going to start with the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I have three things to talk about tonight. One is our teen parenting program update. Another is immunizations. And a third is closing school on Friday. So to start with our teen parenting program update, and I know there are people here tonight who are interested in teen parenting. So as you know, Boulder Valley Schools are planning to transition its teen parenting program to a new model. For nearly 40 years, BVSD's teen parenting program has offered a great service to students with young children, helping them to attain their educational goal of graduation. In recent years, enrollment has significantly declined. Currently, only one student is enrolled in the program, and no students are registered for the 18-19 school year. Given the declining enrollment and the great demand for high-quality childcare in the area, BVSD decided to look for an innovative solution to better utilize the space while keeping services available for teen parents. The district is dedicated to identifying teen parents and providing assistance and educational experience as needed for graduation with the help of its community partners and school counselors. So, although there will not be a career and technical education program, there will be the availability of childcare, teen parent classes, and a continued connection to the services offered by community partners. Dr. Joan Bludorn and her team will continue to work closely with any Boulder Valley students who might need these services, assistance, and educational programming. So that's our the update on our teen parenting. We also wanted to reassure you, because we've had some questions about immunizations. Our immunization notification will be going out this spring to our families so that they can be prepared for fall immunizations. We also want to assure you that what we do send out is totally aligned with the state law. So should you get any questions about the notification, we notify our families precisely as state law expects us to. Finally, closing school on Friday. And we fully recognize that not all of our community is thrilled that we are closing school on Friday. I have received probably about 1,000 emails, and I would say the breakdown is about 50%, 50%. Half of our parents are saying thank you for supporting the teachers, and school funding is an issue in our state, and half the parents are frustrated, and I certainly recognize and understand that. So I wanted you to know why we made the decision that we did. As we looked at Monday and the request for substitutes, on Monday we were already over 200 requests for substitutes on Friday. I talked to HR, and our HR breaking point with substitutes is about 300. If we had gotten to 300 teachers, we knew we would have classrooms uncovered. We cannot come up with more than 300 substitutes in any given day. So given that we were risking having uncovered classrooms, given that it was Monday, and one of the criticisms we've gotten is couldn't you have told us earlier, which I understand, we didn't want to wait till Tuesday or Wednesday and find out that we were going to have uncovered classrooms and have to cancel school at that point. So we made the call on Monday, and I will say I get delighted emails and people who are thrilled we're taking a stand and supporting our teachers, and people who are very frustrated. I will also assure you I'm responding to each and every email. I haven't finished yet, but I will, and respond to all the emails. Our teachers have to take personal leave if they're not going to be in their buildings. We do know that we will have probably 200 to 300 teachers at least who will be going to the Capitol, and they need to use their personal leave for going to the Capitol. So teachers will have a work day, principals will have a work day, but we will not have uncovered classes. So I wanted you to know why we made the decision we made, and that it really is about the safety and instruction of our children. So, thank you. That's it for tonight. I don't think I have anything else.
Okay, any questions? Richard?
Cindy, this is in reference to the team parenting program. It's been a very valuable program throughout the years, and I know that our teen parents have gained a lot from this opportunity that they've had. And I'm really glad to hear that teen pregnancy is going down to a point where you're thinking about canceling that program. But my question is, you mentioned that there's no career and technical program within that program. Could you tell me what that is?
Well, currently what we do is that program is at Arapahoe High School, and that's our career and technical education high school. So girls that are putting their children in the service and can take career and technical education. So right now, if we need to provide teen parenting, it would probably not be a career and technical education program, but we can provide childcare. What we find with most of our girls now is that they don't want to come to Arapahoe High School. They want to stay in their home high schools. So we will not be having a career and technical education program around the childcare program. Now, we will continue to offer early childhood education, but that's a separate program from our child care program.
So the career and technical, was there a career and technical program for these teen parents? I mean, was it like
No, they were in programs.
They were at the
right,
tech center?
Right.
Okay.
So, Cindy, you mentioned that our immunization form policy is consistent with state law. So is that because we've changed our policy since we've been notified that we're not consistent with state law, or are you saying we always have been and we are doing the same thing we always did do?
You know, I will have to do some research for me to speak intelligently about past this year. So if you would let me do some research tomorrow, I'll get back with you on that. My assumption is Boulder Valley has always been aligned with state law, but let me do some checking.
Yes. I mean, I think what the issue is, if it's the same issue that was up last year, and I think the year before maybe even, was that state law says that parents don't have to fill out any certain form. They can just go to their school and say, I want to opt out. But now we're telling them they have to fill out a form that's being recommended by CDPHE. And parents don't realize that when they fill out that form, they automatically go into a national database that captures their immunization status.
Let me do some research tomorrow.
Yeah, okay,
Thank
I think
you.
that's the issue.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, so then we'll move on to our next item, which is public participation, and we have two different sets of public participation tonight. So our first round of public participation will be regarding the Summit Academy charter application. And so we're going to do that for 30 minutes, and I'll just start it here at 6:10. And I'm going to do the public participation preamble, which is the board recognizes the value of public comment on issues related to the operation of the schools. To ensure that our meeting is conducted in an orderly manner, we ask that persons who address the board confine your comments to matters that are germane to the business of the school district. Speakers on agenda items will be heard first, followed by those speaking to non-agenda items, and of course that will come after we receive comments on the Summit Academy. Limit your presentations to 2 minutes. If we go over the first hour, public comment will continue at the end of the meeting. In this case, if we have speakers after the first 30 minutes, they get moved to the front of the list for the second part of public participation, and then we go on to our agenda and then our non-agenda items. Please recognize that students often attend or view our meetings. Speakers' remarks, therefore, should be suitable for an audience that includes kindergarten through 12th grade students. The board president may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement that is unrelated to the business of the district or inappropriate for K through 12 students. There is a lighting system on the podium, starting at green when your 2 minutes starts, turning to yellow when you have 30 seconds remaining, and turning to red at the end. When the light turns red, please wrap up your comments so that the board can hear from the maximum number of speakers. So, and please try to keep within the 2-minute limit so that it's fair for everybody. So first speaking to the Summit Academy, we have Paula Penfield.
First but not least, apparently. Thank you for having a public hearing. If I understand the resolution regarding Summit Academy, I appreciate the fact that a high school will not be located at Lakeshore Estates neighborhood. But after learning about the Summit Academy, I did a lot of reading about it, and I came to an opinion about that academy based on the fact that I graduated from Boulder High. Our daughter graduated from Fairview. My late husband taught at Centaurus, and I taught at Monarch. And with those experiences, knowing New Vista, knowing Arapahoe campus, I just am wondering, we've got these 6 excellent high schools, and there are opportunities to excel in STEM programs, in AP classes of all varieties, of IB classes, as well as the arts of all types, and wonderful sports programs. So as a taxpayer, I question the need for an additional high school. I question the need for another facility, another staff, and I just feel like we've got great existing choices. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Leigh Hollander. And please correct me if I mispronounce your name.
Hi, my name is Leigh Hollander, and I'm a 6th grade student at Summit Middle School. I love Summit Middle School. I moved here almost 2 years ago from Miami, and the transition was difficult. In Miami, I attended a public school that was dual language, IB, and I was in a gifted classroom. My 5th grade experience was not the best. Besides missing my friends, I was uninspired and bored at school. When I started Summit Middle School, I was excited to be back in an educational environment that challenged me, and my love of learning was reignited. My teachers are amazing and supportive. Every Monday, the teachers hold office hours where I'm able to get individual help with homework or discuss what we are learning in class. The students have an enthusiasm for learning, which makes a huge difference in the classroom. It is a small school, which makes for a better learning environment for me. My teachers know me and my style of learning. I would love for Summit Middle School to continue to a high school because I think they will incorporate the same culture and learning environment. I'm excited about the curriculum and being able to choose the path that I want to study. I know that Summit Academy will also provide me with the fundamental academics I will need to succeed. Thank you, BVSD board members, for taking the time to consider Summit Academy. I also want to thank the Boulder Valley Communications for coming together to create the Summit Academy application. I hope for myself, my younger sister, and the kids in Boulder that Summit Academy is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Mariana Hinson.
When our boys were accepted to Summit Middle School, my husband and I felt really lucky because we knew that our children would be getting an excellent education. After 3 years at Summit, we still feel that gratitude. In addition to academics, we have found a place that develops the mind, the body, and the spirit of our boys. Last spring, when we were invited to learn about Summit Academy, Alex and I were excited to find out that the larger Boulder community had been working together for over a year to ensure that the children will be prepared for a changing world. In addition to getting the 3 R's right, we want an environment that creates a passion for learning, that teaches students to discern how their skills can solve someone else's problems. We believe that our kids need a place that guides them to develop a plan to implement solutions and to demonstrate how those solutions will solve the problems. We want our kids to have a school that is integrated within our community here in Boulder, but also globally. so that they will learn the social, emotional skills that they need to be successful. For these reasons, I hope that Summit Academy is approved tonight. We are grateful for the community where innovation, the sharing of ideas, the desire to do more and be better is at the heart of everything that we see happening. We are thankful for everyone in the community who has given time to focus on education. Thank you so much. Each of you has had to spend time working on and reading about Summit Academy, and I appreciate the time and effort that you've put into that. Your efforts are appreciated not only for that, but also for what you do every day for all of Boulder Valley.
Okay, Danny Conroy. Is Danny Conroy here? Okay. How about Jack Chang?
Good evening. My name is Jack Chang. As the father of two BVSD students and the co-president of Southern Hill Middle School PTO, I urge you to support the Summit Academy project. Coming from outside Summit community, I can speak to the broader support this project has throughout the Boulder County. There are many in the wider Boulder community who share in my enthusiasm for Summit Academy. We recognize the need in BVSD for a small, innovative high school with accelerated academics like Summit Academy. As a business leader, I believe Boulder County deserves a school as dynamic and as diverse as the spirit of our community. I see this project as an opportunity to reinvent the role of local businesses and organizations and what it can play in the education of our teenagers. Through mentorship and partnership opportunities in the bioscience, clean tech, blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, and as well as healthcare and IT industries, I truly believe that Summit Academy will become a national leader of integrated entrepreneurship that harnesses the ingenuity of today's youth to help create solutions to solve world problems. There will be incredible value in social entrepreneurship partnership opportunities that emerge from Summit Academy program. Thank you for allowing me to address. Again, I urge you to please vote in favor of Summit Academy Charter Expansion Project. The time is right for a high school that relies on community collaboration to promote educational innovations. I believe Summit Academy is the right project to serve as the catalyst to usher BVSD into the 21st century learning. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Diane Sankey.
Hi, my name is Diane Sankey, and I am honored to be the president of Summit Middle School Board. On behalf of our community, I would like to thank you, the BVSD Board of Education, for allowing us the opportunity to meet with you over the past few weeks to discuss Summit Academy. Thank you for your consideration, and we hope you vote in favor of our request to expand our charter. I'd like to thank the members of the DAC subcommittee for their dedication in serving the district during the charter application review process, and the BVSD staff for their conscientious review of our application. This project has been many years in the making, and there are scores of people who have worked tirelessly to create the constructs of what we know will be an outstanding high school. I speak for each and every one of them when I say we believe in and are committed to this project 100%. We hope you approve our application and allow us the opportunity to partner with the district to find a workable facility solution as we establish a Summit Academy community that is inclusive, diverse, and equitable. We ask you to please give serious consideration and vote in favor of our charter expansion to create an innovative, challenging, and passion-filled high school for our Boulder County students. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Brentz. Is Karen Brentz here? Okay, then we'll go to Andrew Farayumi.
Hi, my name's Andrew Ferriorni. I'm a resident of the Reserve, and I know that Stearns Field is one of the areas that had been considered for the Summit Academy location. I'm also a member of the HOA board in the Reserve, and the reason I wanted to come today was mainly to express that when looking at where these high schools are going to be placed, I really want to encourage the board as well as the Summit Academy who's applying, whether it be Stearns Field or any location. A high school can have a big impact on a neighborhood, and as a community liaison from our neighborhood, I want to encourage you to reach out and work with the community members. You know, through these meetings is one way, but also in advance of those meetings, listening to their concerns, and you know, the communities, you know, want to work with you to meet your goals, and we just ask that you do the same for us and helping us meet our goals as a community. And together, I think we'll have a successful development of a school. So with that, I just wanted to wish you guys good luck on the application tonight, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. So now we're going to move to agenda items, and we'll start with Renee Foxhoven.
Thank you. I'm here this evening to talk about an issue that's of paramount concern to all of us, and that's the safety of our students. The principals of all of our high schools feel that cameras in the indoor common areas of the schools is a key part of the safety puzzle. I feel all of us should support those who have been appointed to be in the front lines of keeping our students safe. They should know best what is needed. I know that for some, student privacy is a concern. I have a hard time differentiating between outdoor and indoor cameras. We already have outdoor cameras. I have 3 high school boys, and when I asked them their opinion, they were surprised to find that there weren't cameras inside the schools. They just assume they're getting filmed everywhere. They can't even walk into King Soopers without having their picture taken. Our kids do not expect the same level of privacy. They share their lives constantly. I realize that safety is not just about cameras. I wish we could do a bottom-up budget, figure out what it takes to give the schools everything they need, and then fund the rest. I am concerned that our school doesn't have a full-time resource officer. I'm also concerned that our counselors serve almost twice as many students as is recommended by the Counselors Association. I thank you for your time and your service on the board.
Thank you. Julia Brodsky.
I'm here tonight to express my frustration with the school board's hesitation to prioritize the safety of children, staff, and faculty above concerns for student privacy. 10 years ago, I would have shared those privacy concerns. Today, however, with as many smartphone cameras in high schools as there are occupants, my position has evolved. In a perfect world, interior cameras would be unnecessary. Schools would have sufficient funding for school counselors, interventionists, and security monitors. Funding and intergovernmental agreements for schools' resource officers would ensure their presence in high schools every day school is in session, not just 4 days a week. And students would never bully or steal from other students, nor vandalize school property. Unfortunately, that is not the reality on the ground today. Instead, administration, custodial, and security resources are being wasted, dealing with behaviors that placement of cameras could reduce. Installing cameras would free those resources up to make a positive impact on student experience within the building. I'm under no illusion that interior cameras alone will eliminate the threats posed to schools. However, experiencing the terror and helplessness I felt on that Friday morning last month, I cannot help but believe that the board already allowed the installation of security cameras. The student carrying his color guard rifle might have been quickly identified and the situation de-escalated before a full lockdown. had been initiated. The installation of cameras is a one-time capital cost. While there are other possible uses for remaining bond funds that would pay for the cameras, the district's Bond Oversight Committee unanimously voted to spend it on interior cameras. I ask that you do the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So now we're moving on to non-agenda items. And Nikita Bogdanov, I think you were given 2 minutes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, got it.
Good evening. Several weeks ago, I spoke here on internet filtering and on the seemingly haphazard proliferation of Chromebooks across district classrooms. I've since met with Superintendent Stevenson, CIO Andrew Moore, and member Shelley Benford to discuss these issues in greater detail, not to mention conversed with many concerned parents. When I spoke previously, I addressed primarily my concerns around the impact of technology on learning. Outside of exposure to inappropriate content, my observations suggest that in many cases, their Chromebooks, at least as deployed at the moment, often hinder learning rather than aiding it. I also, at this time, suggested briefly that technology in the classroom without intentionality may affect students of different socioeconomic status differently. With my 4 minutes tonight, I'd like to expand on this topic, situating it within a notion of equity, an idea that's embedded at the core of the district's One2Web program. I make this argument from my own perspective and can only hope that my experiences and observations are the exception. Equity arguments for the proliferation of technology are quite convincing and usually go as follows. Disadvantaged students unfairly struggle to complete assignments when they are forced to rely on print materials. This widens the achievement gap. Expanding broadband access and computer access for these students therefore provides them with the resources they need and closes the achievement gap. Now, both at home and in the classroom, I have no doubts that such initiatives aid many students. Yet, I also challenge the board and the district administrators to consider the core assumptions behind this argument and consequently to explore the potential hazards of deploying One2Web programs with a lack of granularity. That is, at the core of the equity argument is the idea that what students lack first and foremost is access, an idea that I believe ignores much underlying complexity. For while acknowledging this reality, such an assertion takes for granted that with access will follow engagement, that learning will magically happen. In taking this leap, we forget that for access to be effective, students need to capitalize on it, and that doing so requires developed non-cognitive skills and classroom structures. Now, alarmingly, research, which I have sent to all board members prior to this meeting, corroborates this statement, showing that there are wide disparities in non-cognitive skills and that such skills are crucial to enabling further cognitive development. Yet the standardized mass deployment of Chromebooks fails to engage with this dimension of the achievement gap. My suggestion then is that with most schools in the districts on track to full integration, what we should be discussing is not the digital divide so much as the digital use divide. For a concrete example, consider the student who is 3 or more grades below grade level and who falls into several categories of social disadvantage. The student has a Chromebook to complete their assignments and sometimes uses it for this purpose. Yet because they lack the non-cognitive skills or the classroom structure and attention to facilitate the responsible use of technology, they use their newly issued device mostly for playing games or browsing. Academically, this behavior exhibits itself in the student's decreased ability to stay focused and on task. When working on computers, they're increasingly easily distracted. Yes, they have the same access, but because the district distributes Chromebooks in the same way to all students and fails to train teachers on integrating them with appropriate granularity, many classrooms fail to meet the special needs of this hypothetical student. By ignoring other issues at play, in this case, the One2Web program has actually increased the achievement gap. What this hypothetical suggests is that we cannot disperse Chromebooks to advantaged and disadvantaged students alike with no difference in classroom-based support and expect the same results. At the core of my argument is the assumption that in striving for equity only in the dimension of access, the district has inadvertently abandoned the very students whom it set out to help. Therefore, I urge the board to explore the ways in which our disadvantaged students interact with classroom technology and to invest in teacher training that will expand awareness from the digital divide to the digital use divide. Above all, recall that we're here to serve all students, not just some, and not technology companies. Thank you.
Thank you. Yale Cohen, Elizabeth Fasching. Sorry.
Good evening, board members. Again, my name is Elizabeth Fasching, and I'm a future BVSD parent and vaccine advocate. Colorado has some of the most lenient vaccination exemption policies in the U.S. and is one of only 18 states that allows personal belief exemptions. Consequently, it has one of the highest rates of personal belief exemption rates in the nation. We have seen outbreaks of mumps and whooping cough as recently as 2017 as a result. We know that pockets of unvaccinated children place the community at large at risk of disease outbreaks, which have serious and even deadly consequences for those too young or too health compromised to be vaccinated. We need only look at the most recent cold and flu season to see how quickly disease spreads amongst school children. We have recognized the importance of providing smoke-free and allergen-free school environments for our children's health and safety. It is long past time to recognize the equal importance of ensuring that our children are protected from vaccine-preventable diseases and cease to accept personal belief exemptions from vaccines. Thank you.
Okay, Marta Lindros.
My name is Marta Lindros, and I'm the chair of the Teen Parent Program Advisory Committee. And I'd like to express my concerns about the closing of the Teen Parent Program. Nobody, not one of us, can predict how many young women will become pregnant or are pregnant right now or do not know they are pregnant or in denial of being pregnant before next September. And we should not assume that it will be zero because of the dropping pregnancy rate. What we are concerned about is teenagers having children. Giving a pregnant student or student mother a list of phone numbers to call for assistance, or asking the already overworked counselors in each school to work with these young women and provide with them with the support they need, that won't happen. We cannot expect these young women to know what to do or expect them to follow through with some advice from someone on the phone they don't know or trust. They need hand-holding, and they need to receive the support and education they are entitled to at BVSD, just like any other student. A single mother needs an education to provide for her family and to succeed in this world. Many of these young women, aside from being pregnant or being a new mother, have other emotional, financial, and/or physical obstacles in their lives. Let's not add a lack of education because they dropped out of school to that list. We as BVSD community should make sure they have the support that they need. There needs to be a workable plan that provides the support and works with the budget. As has been said many times before me, it takes a village. Let's not abandon these students or partially commit to help them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Catherine Sequoia.
Hi, my name is Catherine Sequoia. I'm a child and family counselor in the community, and I also do quite a bit of educational and organizational development consulting. And I've been working under a grant with the Teen Parent Program for about 5 years now. Tonight, I ask you that you keep the Teen Parent Program open for at least 1 or 2 more years in the current format in order to develop more data before you make a final decision. And here are 6 things I'd like to see you do in order to make that decision more thoughtful. 1, I'd like you to gain a more robust evaluation of program costs, enrollment trends, program design, and program impacts. 2, I ask you to start this evaluation process by opening a direct line of communication with Teen Parent Program leadership, with the director there. 3, I ask that you take into consideration that this program provides much needed individual educational service and support to our community's most vulnerable populations of infants, toddlers, and teens. This service and support goes well beyond being merely an ordinary child care center or facility and allows these families to better establish and chart safe and healthy life trajectories. 4, I ask that you directly work with a good-sized sample of alumni consumers of the Teen Parent Program to better understand the happy outcomes and impact this 38-year-old program has facilitated. 38 years. I ask that you have a clear understanding, this is number 5, of all the good that comes from participation in this program. For example, higher graduation rates, teens gaining self-advocacy and parenting skill. Additionally, granting the provision of an important safety net for teens, infants, and toddlers who are experiencing high levels of anxiety and depression at times. And also the phenomena of teens identifying and working to break family patterns of neglect, abuse, and poverty. Finally, I'd ask you to let in the new superintendent on this decision to allow an exiting assistant and a temporary superintendent to make this call. Doesn't seem like a good practice to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Marinowski. I'm sorry, Kevin.
As I begin, please note that I am not discussing any political issues whatsoever, but rather only responsibility, a value which I think we can all agree is critical to success. There are disturbing trends in this district regarding student and teacher responsibility. Specifically, the frequency of student protests and now teacher protests has reached a completely unacceptable level of dysfunction, culminating in the closure of BVSD this Friday. It is now the de facto policy of this district that high school students can leave campus at any time for any protest. And now, the teachers and staff are also able to do the same with no consequence whatsoever. In just a couple of days, I will be writing my property tax check. While I would like to withhold a few percent of that amount to protest the closure of the schools this Friday, I cannot do that because I have a responsibility to pay those taxes. That responsibility is enforced by the law. If I fail to pay, there will be consequences such as interest penalties, tax liens, etc. Meanwhile, the district has apparently been creating an unrealistic environment where students and staff can and do ignore their attendance responsibilities without consequence. Here is this board's own policy on staff conduct and responsibilities, and I quote, "Essential to the success of ongoing school operations and the instructional program are the following specific responsibilities, which shall be required of all personnel. Number 1, faithfulness and promptness in attendance at work." End quote. Employees certainly have the freedom to express their opinions outside of work hours, but the coordinated misbehavior of teachers and staff forcing the closure this Friday clearly violates this attendance policy, and the lack of consequences sends another unhealthy message to students about their own attendance responsibilities in their education. The superintendent concluded her email on the closure with this quote, "We fully support our teachers speaking out in this important issue, whether that is at the state capitol or through walk-ins at their buildings," end quote. In other words, the district explicitly supports the teacher's intentional violation of the board's own policy on the responsibility of attendance. This is simply an unacceptable example for our children. Thank you.
Okay, Shamisa Logan. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shamisa Logan, and I am a mom of 2 current Cole Elementary students, and I'm also a former BVSD elementary teacher and a daughter of a kindergarten teacher for over 18 years, and I am here to talk to you about getting full-day kindergarten at Cole Elementary. I truly believe with all my experience about kids that this is what is best for kids and their educational needs. I was a teacher, my mom was a teacher, and kids at that level need a full-day education. Many preschools have a longer period of time that the kids are there for. Right now, currently, there's about 2 hours of instructional time in half-day kindergarten when you take out specials and recess and all of those things, and this is a disservice to our students. They're having to play catch-up from the very beginning at the foundation of their educational career. When they go into first grade, they are still expected to know the same amount of sight words and other demands that the full-day kindergarten kids are expected to know, so they are having to play catch-up and make up that gap. This is not equitable. This district relies on being equitable for all students. There are other options such as kindergarten enrichment, but many kids cannot afford that. So we really need to provide full-day kindergarten for every student. The other thing that makes it unique to Cole is that Cole now has the two closest elementary schools have full-day kindergarten, and so those kids are then going into the same middle schools, starting out from the very beginning with a lot more instruction and not having to make that gap and play catch-up. It's also leading to less enrollment at Cole Elementary. We are losing lots of open enrollments to the schools that have full-day kindergarten as well, and then they are staying there for the rest of their elementary years. And then current Cole families are actually leaving to go to those schools. And I have a 3-year-old, and I'm considering doing that too. So I ask that you implement full-day kindergarten at Cole Elementary. Thank you.
Okay. Joseph Smith.
Thank you, Superintendent Stevenson and board members, for your service to our community. My name is Joseph Smith. I'm the parent of 2 Boulder Valley School students, and my wife is also a substitute teacher. And you can count us in as the part of the community that considers Friday's protest as a hassle. I would consider that the teachers should use their in-service days as protest days so as not to impact the school schedule. By taking Friday off, even though within a week saying that that wouldn't happen, we're forcing parents of the young and of special needs to either take time off or take their own vacation to indirectly support this protest. Specifically, while my kids are happy to have the day off, my wife, being a substitute teacher, had months ago cleared this date on her schedule to be available. Now that job has been canceled, so she's going to lose a day's pay over this protest. My other comment is that employers have the opportunity to decline PTO requests when it impacts the mission. And perhaps what should have been done is to allow a sampling of teachers from each school to be representative at the protest, taking into account the number of substitutes that are available, so that you could keep the schedule that you said you would keep a week ago. And then finally, ironically, today I received an email from Angevine Middle School about Staff Appreciation Week, where they're asking us to spend our money to pay for coffee cards, dining cards, and things of that nature. And it's a little ironic that some parents are sacrificing their pay on Friday while they're simultaneously being considered to or asked to provide funds to teachers on Friday. Thank you very much.
Carly Karsten.
Hi, my name is Carly Karsten. I am the parent of 2 future BVSD students, and I'm also the co-founder of Community Immunity, which is a grassroots organization devoted to vaccine advocacy and education in Boulder. The majority of BVSD parents immunize their kids, and they understand that vaccinations are safe and effective, and that this is a scientific and medical consensus. First, I commend you for ensuring that your back-to-school packets are in compliance with the state law, but I wanted to clear up 2 misunderstandings. First, you can't just go up to an administrator and say that you want a personal exemption. I have here the notice from the CDPHE that states that we encourage the use of a non-medical exemption form when possible. If families prefer not to use this form, a parent may submit a signed non-medical statement of exemption, including the following information: student's full name, age or date of birth, date the exemption was submitted, the vaccines declined, and which type of non-medical exemption is being taken, personal belief or religious. The second misunderstanding is that individuals filling out the online form are automatically included in the SIS system, the Colorado Immunization Information System. This is actually an opt-out system. So if anyone has ever taken their child to a pediatrician, they're actually automatically in the system. So, and if you have decided to opt out, then filling out this form online is not going to change your status. I believe the school board has the responsibility to protect the safety of our children, and that includes from vaccine preventable diseases. They could do so by allowing and facilitating vaccination clinics on school grounds, which is perfectly legal and best practice. It's been shown to reduce absenteeism in schools, and also disseminate information from the state about vaccine preventable diseases. Parents have the right to know when their children might be at risk, and I appreciate you hearing me on this matter. Thank you.
Dr. Patrick R. Van.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Patrick Van. I'm a clinical psychologist here in town, but tonight I'm appearing as Mr. Dan Gould, who has asked me to read a letter on his behalf concerning teen parenting due to his absence. And I quote, "My name is Dan Gould. I live in eastern Boulder County, where my daughter received an excellent education from the BVSD. I am out of state on business, and so I've asked Dr. Van to read this on my behalf. I have been a member of Teen Parenting Programs Advisory Committee for 3 years. Having a sister who was a teen parent long before such support programs were available, I have a great appreciation for the valuable way in which they help young parents overcome the hurdles as teen parents they all face. I understand the BVSD needs to use its limited resources wisely, and therefore I understand that you are looking at the decline in teen parenting programs enrollment as an opportunity to shift resources to other purposes. That being said, I am gravely concerned that the district's promises to provide alternative support to teen parents, should the need arise in the future, will end up giving short shrift to this essential service. The district apparently believes that their current counseling staff in the schools around the district has the time, knowledge, etc., to provide this very specialized guidance and support needed by teen parents. I do not believe that this is the case. This is not a criticism of the district's counseling staff, but instead a recognition of the already overtaxed workload they face. I would like the district to commit now to provide staff members with the experience and training specific to teen parenting programs whenever there is even one student in such need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Zach Kilpatrick.
Thank you, Board. Thanks for your service. My name's Zach Kilpatrick. I'm a parent of a future BVSD student, and I can tell you that I'm also a vaccine advocate. And I can also tell you that being a parent, one of the things that makes me feel worst is to see my child in pain. And one of the best ways to prevent that from happening is to ensure that he does not get sick. And the Boulder Valley School District has one of the lowest vaccine coverage rates of any district in the state, despite the fact that it's one of the most affluent districts in the state. This is due largely in part to a fairly lenient exemption policy and a fairly vocal contingent of individuals that advocate the pseudoscientific belief that vaccines are dangerous. Vaccines are safe, vaccines are effective. There is scientific consensus on this from the World Health Organization, the Centers for Disease Control, the American Association for Pediatrics, et cetera. What I suggest is that the district take more means in order to close the loopholes in terms of vaccine coverage in the district. Open vaccine clinics on school grounds, which is fully legal and in compliance with the law, as well as provide information about vaccines to students and parents. Thank you for your time on this matter, and I hope you will consider taking the time to protect our children.
Okay. Teresa Wrangham, who's been given 2 minutes for a total of 4.
My name is Teresa Wrangham. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm the Executive Director for the National Vaccine Information Center, and I'm here to voice concerns on behalf of our BVSD parents. NVIC is a charitable nonprofit of over 35 years, supporting the human right to make voluntary vaccine decisions. We worked with Congress to pass a federal law in 1986 that acknowledged that vaccine injuries were real and worthy of compensation, and put in place the vaccine safety reporting and informing provisions that exist in federal law, so that when parents go to get a vaccine, they receive information on the risks and benefits, because there is no such thing as a 100% safe or effective vaccine, and there is no way to know beforehand who is going to be harmed by a vaccine. You can't undo them. Colorado laws require schools to provide parents with exemption rights information, with all vaccine information schools distribute to parents, and for schools to collect immunization certificates and exemption statements from parents. For parents, the law requires submission of immunization certificates and/or exemption statements to their schools. MBIC is here to express ongoing concern that vaccine information provided to parents by BVSD schools continues to lack context and transparency and deprives parents from making educated decisions. Examples of complaints we continue to receive include vaccine information distributed without vaccine exemption rights information, the posting and/or receiving of vaccine information for vaccines that are not required for school attendance, encouragement by school personnel for parents to vaccinate their children with vaccines not required for school attendance, lack of information on exemption forms being optional, deferral by schools to the health department for vaccine exemption information, lack of information on forfeiture of federal privacy rights for exemptions submitted online, lack of information on third-party data sharing without parental consent by the health department for exemptions submitted online. Colorado's law does not require parents to engage directly with the health department to enroll their children in school, nor are schools required by Colorado law to market vaccines and optional exemption forms to parents or encourage their participation in Colorado's vaccine registry. However, many schools have incorporated these practices and put BVSD in the position of marketing products and services that have nothing to do with education or Colorado's school vaccine laws. Parents rightfully question these practices and expect BVSD to uphold its mission values and provide clear and meaningful communication to support educated decision-making inside and outside of the classroom. MBIC is here tonight to encourage dialogue. We would like to work with the school district to improve the transparency and quality of vaccine information provided to parents and school personnel, to comply with Colorado's vaccine exemption laws, and protect federal privacy rights. Thank you so much for your attention.
Okay, thanks. Patty Hernandez.
Hello, thank you, board, for serving on the board. I would like to start by introducing myself. I am a 4th grade teacher here in Boulder Valley and, and a graduate student at the University of Colorado Boulder, a mother of an 8-year-old BVSD student, and a wife. I was born and raised in Boulder, and I graduated from Boulder High School in 2011. All of my accomplishments would not have been possible if it were not for the Teen Parent Program. I followed the program through their transition from Fairview High School and have seen the amazing benefits and importance of this program and its effects on our students and our community as a whole. Not only was I a part of the program, but so was my husband. When I found out I was pregnant before starting the program, I thought my life was over. With the help of the Teen Parent Program, I came to realize I had options and that I could be someone. Thank you for understanding the importance of keeping childcare for young moms. However, the program is much more than daycare. I learned what my options were for birth, how to prepare myself, and I even got to go to a hospital visit before giving birth. When I had my daughter, I had a pediatric nurse visit at home, give me lactation advice, and make sure my daughter was healthy. There were many more services the Teen Parent Program has been able to give me, and as a result of their support and guidance, I was able to attend CU Boulder straight out of high school, and which led to pursuing a graduate degree. I feel that that these services and provision of resources that are what make the difference and is what keeps the majority of teen parent students in school and to graduation. The Teen Parent Program has a graduation rate that has grown from 22% to over 90% in the last 10 years. There will always be teen parents, even though numbers are low. We owe it to them to provide a free and appropriate education. Thank you.
Kaylee Anderson.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Anderson, and this is my son, Drayden.
He's 8 months old. I was a student of the teen parent program last year. I graduated last year. So I just want to share a little bit of my story and some of my supports with the teen parent program. I believe that the teen parent program is doing a great thing by keeping the nursery open, but it's, again, just much more than that. When I found out my son had a very complex, rare heart disease, I didn't know what to do. So what the teen parent school nurse did for me is she reached out to the doctors, she did all of her research, and I just felt more comforted and comfortable that, you know, I wasn't the only one that was clueless. She made me feel very, very comfortable, and I found this out at 17 weeks pregnant. So I was 6 months pregnant when I had left the teen parent program. From that time, they would come up to me, ask me if I needed anything. They run to Target to get me clothes when I was in a bad position. They provided me with diapers, wipes, diaper bag, and it's just much more than that. They provided me watching videos, legal help. So those are the things that I'm saying we need that support. And I wouldn't be getting my GED. I wouldn't be where I am right now. I was in such a bad position, and I just really needed that support. So if you could really take in my consideration of having this support open to all the teen parents, and even though there's only one right now, there's not going to be that just one. What if there's another person like me that will need it? Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Payne. Okay. Rachel Gooding-Lord.
Hello, board members. Thank you for letting me come and testify tonight. I'm also a graduate of the Teen Parent Program. This is my son, Caden, back here. He's 3 years old. And when I started the Teen Parent Program, I was only 15 years old and a few months pregnant, and I had absolutely no idea where I was going. Today, I graduated high school 1 year early, and I'm on track to finish my bachelor's degree next May, 2 years early. This program has been tremendously helpful for me. I can tell you I would not be here today if it were not for this program. I completely agree that we should continue to provide nursery support for teen parents in the future, but that alone I don't think will help teenage mothers finish school or teenage fathers. This program has been, really takes a holistic approach to getting teen mothers through school, whether it's the school nurse helping you with lactation questions, or Wendy and Amy answering any questions or providing support when you need it, and giving you that encouragement to show up to school every day and finish and truly give your best effort. And this program, I don't believe it would be as effective if it didn't have that support of all of the staff members who continue to help these girls finish school, start college, finish college, and really provide better lives for themselves and for their children. This program is a career technical program, and I think it definitely needs to keep its status as such. And it's incredibly beneficial, and we are we're reimbursed by the state because it is a career and technical program, which is why I urge you to keep it at that status and keep all of the staff who provide this support to the mothers. And just because the numbers are really low right now, that doesn't mean that's how it will be in the future. So I urge you to keep this program open, keep all of the staff on who help these mothers get to where they are today, because I'm in such an amazing position right now, and I would not be here without the teen parenting program. Thank you.
Evangelina Milena.
Hi, my name is Evangelina. I am a current Boulder Valley School District employee, as well as a previous teen parent at Fairview High School. I graduated in 2010 from Fairview. I am here tonight, and first of all, I want to thank you for still keeping the availability in the program for children to still be able to stay there. One concern is that the teen parents will no longer have the same educational support that they have had in the past. That support would be to still keep a teacher, an educator, and or a counselor who centers around the teen parent expertise. A home high school counselor would not have that time, need, or much background experience in helping a teen parent in need. The educator that they need is an educator who will help in the program with life skills, financial skills, business skills, which include basic mom and or dad skills that a teen parent does not have at that time. We need our future teen parents to have an educator, who is there to support in times of need, as not all teen parents at their young age know what to do with concerns in those times of need. We have that need to keep present teen educators and para-educators because of the history and years experience that they have. They are the people that we trust. Thank you.
Camry McAvery, and we apologize if we got.
I thought I was signing in. I don't have anything to say.
Okay, great. Edith Garcia, and she's been given an extra 2 minutes for a total of.
Hello. Oh, there we go. Hello, I want to start off by introducing myself. My name is Edith Garcia, and my 5-year-old son Elijah Olguin is here as well today. Today, I will be talking about the Teen Parent Program. My son and I graduated the program 2 years ago, and I cannot thank the program and staff enough for all the support I was given throughout my whole high school experience there. The Teen Parent Program is truly amazing. I started the program my freshman year having the slightest amount of knowledge of what parenting and being in school would be like. Thankfully, I had a place in school where I belonged and could identify myself with all of the other parents there as well. My parenting needs were separated from the rest of the school. It truly felt like home. It was a safe environment, a place where I knew that the moment me and my son walked through those doors, we were safe. The Teen Parent Program really holds its value due to the amount of support it is given to each parent in the program. I believe that what makes the Teen Parent Program so special is the services that are provided for the parents. It's a wide variety of services, like the access my child had to a professional nurse who knew how to deal with his medical needs, to the great amount of free resources like diapers, wipes, formula, clothes, and many other things. Not only do they look out for the well-being of our kids, but they make sure that we are on top of our appointments, that our attendance in school is good, as well as connecting us with colleges and scholarships for our future. That's really amazing. I truly think that a special aspect of this program is the amount of support you receive, not only school-wise, but emotionally. Wendy and Amy would always call me on those days that school just wasn't doing it for me, to check up on me and my son and encourage me to go to school. I truly appreciated that. I loved having a person who I could go to when I was lost and needed guidance at school. I built such a strong relationship with the staff there that they are still people who I still text or call when I need some guidance. And I know that I established a lifelong relationship with them that I wouldn't have done otherwise if the program wasn't how it is currently being run. I was able to graduate with a GPA greater than a 3.0, and thanks to the Teen Parent Program, I received college classes during my senior year of high school, as well as 6 career development certificates. I currently work at a dental office, and Arapahoe Ridge gave me that great career opportunity that provides for my family and I. In addition to all of that, I want to share that I was part of the Student Advisory Board my junior year of high school, and throughout that time, I learned that the students of BVSD really appreciate the Teen Parent Program due to the amount of support and success it has. I believe that every young parent that is part of BVSD should have the same opportunities and experiences that I did thanks to the Teen Parent Program. Thank you.
Okay, and Gabby Tamayo.
Hi, I'm here to speak on behalf of Carla Trujillo. I found out I was pregnant with my son at age 14, not long before I was going to start high school. As the daughter of a single mother who worked 2 jobs, I would have dropped out to care for my baby. if it hadn't been for the BVSD Teen Parent Program. If your plans to close the program were put in place back in 2009, I would have dropped out. The options you are considering going forward are not enough. Please remember, teen parents are not adults. They are teenagers who happen to be parents, and you must not end the aid they receive through the program. There are so many ways it provides support. In 2012, my mom was arrested by immigration. It was 20 long days and nights, and I worried about what I was going to eat, how was rent going to be paid, and how I was going to buy diapers. I was only 16 years old. I had no job and distant family members who never bothered to help. This program supported me. It was not only a place where I could take my child where I was in the same building studying, but the teen parent program felt like family. They helped me through those 20 days with food, diapers, and resources to help me get by. I was alone with my child. The father of my children was not with me. I had no father to help me. It was only my son and I. They referred me to EFA and also helped refer me to government and legal support to help my mom. The teen parent program nurse and counselors were also very helpful through my 4 years of high school. They taught me how to nurse, help with relationship issues, teen parent issues, and it felt good knowing that I had someone who understood my unique teen parent issues. I didn't have a counselor who needed to help 300 other students. Instead, I had caring support from the program counselors, teachers, and advisors. When I graduated from high school, the teen parent offered a scholarship. With no job and my mom a single mother, I did not know how to start to pay for college. The teen parent program opened a door I knew nothing about. It helped me apply and navigate the college process. I have now completed over 60 credits at Fern Range Community College and am a junior at Metropolitan State University. In January of 2018, I was awarded another teen parent program scholarship to stay in school. That aid came to me at the right time. I had recently separated from my abusive partner, and with extra bills, I had no idea how I could afford to continue. Aid and resources like these is what people do not see when they consider just the classes for teen parents at Arapahoe Ridge. Please do not take from our future graduates and children, especially not from my Latino community, which has high school dropout rate and a high percent of teen pregnancy. More teenage pregnancy are coming. I am beyond thankful for the program. Thank you. Carla Trujillo.
Okay, thank you. So our next item is board communication. Who would like to start? Richard.
I want to thank everybody that was here tonight, and a lot of things came to the attention of the board, so thank you very much for being here. The question that I have is really based around the teen parenting program, and I'm not sure what that process was in terms of just making that decision in terms of it, or if the decision has been made as it relates to discontinuing the present program as it is. And if it was based on enrollment, I have an email here from an individual that says that the Genesis program has indicated that there are students in the community who will need TPP in August. However, they have not been in touch with the school to enroll in August, as it is early days and some pregnancies to be looking that far ahead. This could be a reason why Arapahoe admin has not heard of any future enrollments. It may have behooved them to check data with the TPP team first before giving you inaccurate projections and data. And the other question that I have is around the TPP advisory board. Were they consulted? Did they offer advice to the admin as it relates to the closing of the TPP program? And so I'm not sure of all those details, and if in fact it's a done deal that it is going to be discontinued, or is that something that we all need to hear about here at the board?
I'm going to ask Mark Schaefer to join us, since he can talk to us about work with the advisory board more directly. And really, this decision is difficult. We acknowledge that. But the program has not been used over the last year. So if Mark can fill us in about the process that Mark led, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Mark.
Well, the process was actually led by Dr. Dorn and staff, and so I know that staff did meet with the TPP, the advisory board, and there was some discussions around that. So I think, first of all, the testimony that was offered tonight was very powerful and poignant. It's really a tribute to our staff that have done a phenomenal job with the teen parents and with the children, and also just the tenacity and perseverance of the students themselves. I mean, we heard of a lot of people that, as a result of this amazing program, they've really done a lot with their lives, and that's very, very exciting. So there's no question that there's strong impact, and it's a very good, excellent program. The reality is we don't have any students enrolled next year. That being said, the district does stand ready and committed to devote necessary resources to support any student that presents themselves as needing services. And it's more than just nursery services. I mean, we recognize that there's an educational component as well, a community component as well. And so those services will be available for even one student. So there's not like a ceiling or a floor. It's if one student presents himself or herself, those would be provided. So right now the decision was made. It was staffed with 5 or 6 individuals, and with no students enrolled in the program for next year, it's tough to run a program when you don't have any students. That being said, we do recognize, and as was shared this evening, we don't know. I mean, and someone could present themselves anytime between now and the start of the year or during the year, and so we will devote the necessary resources to support these students.
I think the other thing the board needs to know is the incredible response we've had from employees related to creating employee daycare. And it's a lovely facility. It needs to have more than one child in it. And our employees, we haven't sent anything out yet confirming, but we just did an interest, are people interested? And I'm going to look to Leslie. How many people have we had respond?
We've heard from over 130 staff members so far.
130 staff members who are interested in the development of employee daycare. So there are different needs. We recognize that. We stand ready to serve any girl who needs support. That said, we have 130 employees who have responded to say they would definitely be interested in childcare and preschool.
Thank you. Richard, do you have other comments, questions?
Yeah, I just have a comment, and with all due respect to you, Cindy, and the staff, I'm just concerned that we're turning a TPP program into a moneymaker for the school district. And that really concerns me because I think that there's definitely a big need in the community. And as we heard, it's a program that has been working. It's been around for 30 years, and I'm wondering if what's the number of enrolled students do we need to have to reactivate it back to its same posture that it had before, or is that completely lost? I guess that's just a comment that I have.
And you can also submit that as an RFI. So, other board comments? Who wants to go next? Shelley.
Just on this topic. So, Mark, what if a couple of girls presented themselves next year? What would the support look like?
So there are programs, classes that the students could take would be customized to their needs. So currently there are courses that are offered to support students, and then there's academic program as well. As you heard, there's a counseling component, there's a community component, there's an educational component. So my understanding is that those services that students are currently receiving would exist with one student coming back. It would look different. It's not currently, wouldn't be aligned with career technical education, but it would be within a program embedded with a qualified teacher to be able to provide those services to students. And we would flex based on the amount of enrollment. So as more students enrolled potentially, then we would provide additional services.
So would the qualified teacher be in their home school, or would they go over to Arapahoe Ridge for that class, or?
Potentially, so it's really up to the students. Some students want to stay at Arapahoe campus, as we heard a number of students did remain. Some can receive services at their home high school as well.
And the counseling, I mean, we know that our high school counselors have, 450 students or so, so I heard the concern that they may not be able to get the attention they need. What are we doing to bolster that?
So there are partnerships with other community partners that help to provide those community, those outreach and supports for students. So it's really beyond what our counselors do at the home high schools. We would connect with some agency partners that would help provide some of those services.
So do you ever foresee that there would be, I guess I'm asking the same question as Richard, when would we ever reinstitute this program? What number of students would it take to make it make sense?
I mean, I don't have an answer for that. I can say it would be more than 0. I mean, so we would need certainly students, and I think, again, the program it's an exceptional program, and it does support both, men and women, and the babies. And so we would need to make a decision. Again, if there's even one student that presents himself or herself, there would be services provided. At some point, we would have to make a decision. Would we recreate a program that's similar to what's in place right now, and what would that be? Again, I believe that right now the program employs roughly 5 individuals, and again, they do a great job. But that's kind of where it stands right now with no kids enrolled.
And just one last question. So is if the nursery was shifted over to be an employee nursery, that wouldn't preclude our students from using that facility if they needed to, right?
Not at all. In fact, we would dedicate space, and they would have priority. And so there is definitely space made available for them, and they would have priority over anyone else in that program.
Thanks, Mark.
Shelley, do you want to continue with comments?
And unless, Richard, did you have any more? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I want to thank everyone who came tonight to talk about a variety of topics. Specifically, I want to thank Nikita for coming forward again and talking to us about Chromebooks and how their use might actually be disadvantaging the kids that we're trying to help the most. And I know we're going to have a work session on technology coming up in the next week or so, May
15th.
May 15th. So it looks like, based on the letters we're receiving, that might cover cell phone use in the schools, Chromebooks, one-to-web programs, web filtering, data privacy. It's going to be a whole range of topics, so I invite anyone who's interested in those topics to come to the work session and hear the conversation. To the parents who, on both sides of the vaccine issue, I would just remind everyone that this board does not make vaccine policy for the state of Colorado, that our job is to be in compliance with state laws. So if in any way that we are not in compliance, I would certainly hope that we would be open to NVIC's offer to come and speak with the district about their perceptions of where we may not be in alignment. So Cindy, could we make that meeting possible?
Yes. Well, okay. Let me do the research and get back with you, and then we'll see what we need to do.
Okay, that would be great. And I just want to say I really apologize to the parents who were inconvenienced by the walkout on Friday. I was a little surprised that we had changed our position too. I certainly understand both sides of it, but I do know that it was an inconvenience because I work with people who were really surprised and didn't know what they were going to do on Friday. So I think the district just needs to be more aware that people are impacted by our decisions on these things. And so I appreciate everyone coming forward to say how they feel about that. I think when you do come forward, it heightens our awareness of these things, and it's much appreciated. I think that's it. Thank you.
I'd like to go next. Kitty?
I too want to thank everybody who came forward to speak. I was very interested in what our young parents had to say and how articulate they are and how accomplished they are. And I think that really does speak very highly of the teen parenting program that we've had. I'm also interested in the vaccine policy, and I don't know if we even have a policy or if we just go by what state law is. Is that so? Do we have discretion in any way, or do we just, the state law says this is what it is and that's what we do?
We do not have discretion.
Okay. And I think that's all I had to say.
Sam or Kathy? You good?
I had a quick question on the teen parenting program that we might need more help on. My understanding is it's currently a CTE program, so we do get some reimbursement from the state for that, so we lose that reimbursement, so we'll be bearing, do we know how much we're going to lose by not calling it a CTE program? And we'll pick that up. I was just wondering about I'm assuming it's not a big budgetary impact, but I was just curious about that.
We can find that information out for you. There is definitely reimbursement as a CTE program, but I have to do some research or have Joan get that.
Okay.
We'll do that.
I have a couple other comments. I joined thanks, Mark. I have to say I was very impressed with the obstacles and the tenacity and the passion that our teen parents brought. I know it couldn't be easy to come. I really appreciate you bringing your children too. It's just great to see young children and maybe even future BVSD students in the audience. So I can't even pretend to imagine how hard it is for you all to have done the amazing things that you've done, and I wish you all the best, and I think we'll still try to figure out the best way to serve future parents, because we will have future parents. It's just a question of when and where and what we can best do to serve them. So thank you for coming forward. Just a couple quick things. We have started preliminarily, I think, the conversation. There was a parent who spoke about full-day kindergarten at Cole, and it's a process, and I think it's working its way up the agenda for the board to be considering potentially. And so I appreciate you bringing that forward. I think the research is pretty unequivocal about the benefits of full-day kindergarten, and so I'd like to see us try to continue that conversation, and not just in Cole, but to have, full-day kindergarten in all our schools. And so that's a more complicated issue, but certainly one I think that we need to be looking at as a board.
And Kathy, I just want to point out that the revised school finance bill does have full-day funding in it. So should that bill pass unchanged, a great deal unchanged, that money would exist for the 1920 school year.
And we've already overcome one of the big obstacles, which is building the space. So that's thanks to the citizens of the school district who supported our bond many years ago. We do have the space now. We just have to figure out it'll have to be a sliding scale tuition-based program. So there's some elbow grease that needs to go into figuring that out. But thank you for bringing that up and bringing that forward to the board. And then two quick things. I received an email about an email that went out from our principal at Fairview about the remodel that's going on at Fairview. And in that, it references some asbestos removal that's going on. And I just think it would be really helpful if we could get a little more detail out to that community about what that's going to look like, when the testing is going to be, how that works, just so that there's some comfort. Because when you hear asbestos removal during school, I think some parents just need a little bit of comfort understanding what that looks like going forwards. And I didn't have the technical information to actually respond to that. So if we could get that information out to
that email. So we haven't seen that email, so we will get information for you.
Okay. And then I just join what Shelley said. We've been getting some requests about our cell phone policy or lack of, and so I would like to see that added to our technology work session and invite those parents who have sent those emails about their concerns over cell phone use to come and listen to the conversations around the technology session that we're having in a couple weeks, because they raise some interesting issues that I hadn't thought about before. So I always appreciate hearing from everybody to bring issues to our attention. So. And then attended really quickly, I'll just say attended really, the CBOC meeting, and I still continue to appreciate the hard work that CBOC is putting into monitoring the bond and making sure that our projects are going forward. And so don't have much to update about that because they'll be giving us their own update in a few months. So that's it.
Okay. And I just also wanted to thank everyone who came and shared some of their thoughts. I appreciated the viewpoints from the Summit Academy group, and we'll be looking at that application later on tonight's agenda. Also, for the teen parents, I'm thrilled to hear that it's been a wonderful program. I think the hardest thing this board ever does is close programs. We moved a program last year with ICANN. We're looking at a transitions program. And it's always so painful because of the really great work that's going on. And I'm heartened by some of Dr. Schaefer's words about how we're going to support students. And I feel like there can be an ongoing dialogue that can be flexible to meet the needs of students. And as they go up, perhaps we can reinstitute programs. And that might be a conversation we continue to have. The other piece is I'm also anticipating the May 15th work session, and I'm happy to hear that we might be including some cell phones as well. I think as we adapt to these new technologies, it's tricky. And I did want to bring attention, there's, this is just looking out way too far ahead, but I went to a luncheon at the Helen and Arthur Johnson Depression Center in Denver about teen depression in the fall. And this fall, their topic is smartphones, social media, and stress. It's on October 5th. And the presentation last year was fabulous, so I'm planning to go to this as well. I could take a photo and send this to all of you if you're interested in going. But I think they've done some really good work about teens and interactions with stress and depression. And also on full-day kindergarten, I wish every school had full-day kindergarten. We don't. We were able to open our preschool and kindergarten for highly impacted schools through our mill levy. We don't have state funding for preschool or kindergarten, and if that formula does pass, the superintendent's formula, that will be an option for us. And then in terms of things, I attended last week. I was happy to go to the high school student accountability committee that Mark led. And there were 4 different presentations. These were all presented by our high school students. And one thing that might be nice is if the PowerPoints could be distributed out to the board. But the 4 topics they explored were mental health, the notions of tolerance versus acceptance in the context of diversity, teacher-student relationships, which is a really interesting talk about how students wanted to see greater relationships in those 2 groups, and also financial and college counseling, and even the possibility of some mandatory classes around those topics. So I love hearing back from the students and really like this new tradition of having the students coming back directly to the board and having these presentations. This Thursday, of course, is the middle school SAC presentation, which I'm also planning to attend. Last Thursday also was the Equity Summit, and we had some great attendance. It was led by Samantha Messier. And I was in a wonderful group and heard some really different views on what equity meant and what it might look like in our district. I think it was over 100 people, and Sam was there, and Kitty, and Richard, and it was a really worthwhile night. One of my big takeaways in my circle, which was, I was in a great circle. I had some wonderful thinkers and some long-term activists and some people that were new to BVSD, was there was a lot of hope around what equity might look like in the future. And then yesterday, we met for 8 hours with the Boulder Valley Education Association to talk about the contract. And that again was another, it was a long day, and many people participated on the board. There were PowerPoints and handouts distributed, and I'm wondering if we could get those handouts and printouts for board members who couldn't attend or had to leave early. And there was some really good work, especially on the salary schedule, making professional credits more meaningful, and I think that will create some cost savings as well as some more meaningful professional development delivered by teachers, which will in turn, provide better instruction for our students. And then there are lots of other details that went on with that. So that's the communication. Oh, and I just got a letter today that, and I'll just say this really quickly, that our financial team, yet again, received the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. It is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting, and I think we're proud to say that we get this almost every year. I think this is our 10th or 15th year, so congratulations to the financial reporting team. All right, so my question right now for the board is, do you want to take a break now and then come back, or should we carry on? Yeah, okay.
As we all know, our new superintendent, Rob Anderson's contract is going to be on the consent agenda tonight. And I just want to call this event out because I don't want this moment to pass unnoticed by the people in this room or the people who might be watching. Our community, our staff, and our board has been through some difficult years, most recently. And I'm hopeful that Rob's arrival will mark sort of a new era of transparency and integrity and collaboration in the school district. And so I just want to say that I'll be casting an enthusiastic yes for Rob's contract tonight. And I want to thank Cindy very much for holding down the fort for us the past year or so. It's greatly appreciated. And thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. I think it is an exciting time, and Rob will be coming to Boulder, I think, as soon as this Sunday to start getting to get to know the district, the staff, the board. All right, so.
Can we break after information items?
Okay, so, yeah. All right, so do we have a legislative update?
Ernestine is here.
Oh, great. Okay, so today we have one of our two lobbyists, Ernestine, who's going to give a legislative update. We have not had one yet. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me tonight. It's been a wild day down at the Capitol, and it looks like your schedule is just as crazy, so I'll get started. We're in the final days of the 2018 legislative session. We're officially 12 days out, and they'll adjourn on May 9th. So it's really crunch time. The session has been wild. There's been about 696 bills introduced as of today, and they can continue introducing bills up until 3 days before CNADA, so May 7th. So we're still seeing many bills getting introduced. The Senate is going to go down to 3 committees starting next week. And then at that point, those committees, State Affairs, Senate Finance, and Appropriations, will just start churning through bills because they're about to get a huge onslaught from the House. So we still have a lot of bills in play, especially on the K-12 side that we're watching for you all. Tonight, the House went back on the floor at 4 o'clock, which is why Tanya can't be here, because they're going to take up the para bill. So thanks for your just appreciation of letting us kind of divide and conquer tonight. We appreciate that. I thought I'd highlight a few of the sort of bigger bills that are in play. The first being the school safety bill. During the long bill process, the legislature was able to secure an amendment for $30 million for school safety. This money will be distributed to Senate Bill 269, which is called the School Security Disbursement Program. This bill was actually heard this afternoon in Senate Finance, and it passed unanimously. The $30 million will be distributed. They're calling for it to be distributed as quickly as is practicable. The money can be used for the following purposes: capital construction that improves school security, which would include hardware, device equipment, and anything that protects a facility or a vehicle. It can also be used for training and student threat assessment, training for SROs, and school emergency response training. School districts must submit an application for disbursement, and there is a requirement for matching money. And that requirement will, for matching money will be, those districts who can match the money will actually be given priority. So that bill started off today. It'll sort of get moving. There was no testimony, really no discussion on it. And then in terms of the other $5 million that was distributed for school safety, that'll go to Senate Bill 58, which is $5 million for school access to interoperable communication technology. So I'm not sure if you're all aware of this, but the state has a digital trunk radio system that public safety uses law enforcement uses to talk to each other on this radio system. And so this bill would provide grant money for school districts to be able to upgrade their technology so that school personnel within the building could speak directly to law enforcement if there was an emergency, a school shooting, et cetera, as opposed to calling 911 on a cell phone, which is sort of less reliable. That radio technology is sort of a more reliable form of communication for folks. So that bill is being heard on the House floor this evening as well. And then, do you have any other questions on school security before I sort of move forward?
Yeah, why would they give priority to districts that can match?
You know, I think there was just a lot of conversation about how they could possibly maximize that funding because it is one-time funding. I think they just wanted to make sure that people or districts that really needed the money are ready to go with plans and have some skin in the game is what they talked about today, is that they really want districts to have skin in the game.
So are we eligible for that then?
I talked with Bill Sutter the other day, and he said that you guys have some ideas in mind that could fit well within that program. So,
how are the matches decided? Are they similar to best grant matches, or what's the formula?
So this will be decided by the Department of Public Safety, and I'm not sure of all the details of the actual grant making. The bill doesn't really speak to any of that. All I know is that the bill sponsors really talked about providing as much flexibility to school districts, so really not wanting to limit it to just certain things. But I would have to get you more information on that part.
And then is there a maximum amount you can apply for so that the most school districts can get some of the money, or have they not talked about that either?
The bill doesn't speak to any maximum dollar amounts, so, yeah. Great. So the next item I wanted to discuss was House Bill 1232. This is the new school funding distribution formula that's being carried by Representative Young. So this is the superintendent's funding proposal. This bill was actually debated a couple weeks ago in House Education Committee, and they took a lot of testimony. All folks that came in to testify on the bill spoke really highly of it, all supported the bill. But we've kind of known all along that this bill didn't have a path forward just due to a lot of political arguments within the House and the Senate, not wanting to raise taxes or refer a measure, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you can pick your poison with this bill. So what happened was they never ended up voting on it a couple of weeks ago, and Representative Young has been working with the House Education Committee to find a way to get this bill out of committee. They've talked about having the School Finance Interim Committee look at this proposal, and they've talked about a myriad of other things. I spoke with Representative Young before coming over here, and as of tonight, he still just does not know what he's going to do or what's going to happen tomorrow when the House takes it up. So I think he knows there's not a path forward. It's just now a question of whether it gets out of the Education Committee and onto the House floor, or whether it ends tomorrow. So I'll keep you posted on that one. And then with that one comes Initiative 93, which is the ballot initiative to sort of raise the funds for that bill, which I know people are out collecting signatures and all of that. So that part will probably still move forward, I'm guessing, just without a bill. And then our other big agenda item for tonight was the School Finance Act, House Bill 1379. This year, K-12 did really, really well in the budget, and we're just really grateful for the legislature's commitment to K-12. Some of the big ticket items in this year's school finance include a $150 million buy down of the negative factor, which brings it to now about $672 million. That's the sort of largest buy down we've ever had since the inception of the negative factor. It also increases base per pupil funding by about $222 per student, or 3.4%. And then it has $30 million for rural schools, both large and small. It has 1,000 e-care slots, which I know you guys were just speaking to earlier. And those e-care slots can be used for either preschool or full-day kindergarten. And then the way that English language learners are funded in the bill has also changed. Tina, I know you had some questions about that earlier. There is no new funding for that. They just kind of changed it based on the actual amount of English language learners as opposed to the 75-25 split they've done in the past. And so those are the big school finance issue or ticket items in that bill. The Senate Education should take it up this week or next. It wasn't calendared when I left today, so it might be heard maybe Thursday, or it could possibly be heard tomorrow too. So I'll keep you posted on that one as well. But that one kind of flew through the House, no real big changes. So we're really pleased with that, and just want to again reiterate our thanks to the legislature for their commitments to K-12. The other issue that we've been working with Bill on is the Hamner-Rankin mill levy proposal. This was a JBC discussion that had been happening all session long. Those two legislators have had really big concerns about the inequities within school districts and their mill levies. And so they had a proposal, which they actually pulled off the table today, that would have allowed school districts like Boulder Valley to increase their mill levy to 30% while at the same time increasing their total program mill levies. And then at the same time, they would fund those who essentially couldn't raise their meals or who were like at the lower end. And so this was sort of their attempt at an equity proposal, but it just faced a lot of backlash from the districts and from their leadership. And so because it was such a complicated issue, they pulled it off the table today. So thankfully we won't have that one kind of coming forward, but just know that the School Finance Interim Committee will continue to discuss that, and so I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon, but so it's something we'll definitely need to watch. And then lastly, wanted to give you guys an update on the para bill. So para bill is now in the House. It passed completely out of the Senate, and the House is going to debate it tonight on the House floor. Lucky Tanya gets to be there. They had about 40 bills on the calendar. They're about halfway through, so I think maybe in a couple hours, para will come up. And they have a number of amendments that they're going to work through tonight. So what's going on there is that there are major problems between the House and Senate version politically for both sides of the aisle. They decided to go back to the initial para version of the bill. And they're going to work off of that and sort of run some amendments off of that. The key sticking points, just to point out to you all, is that the $225 million for para will remain in the bill. They're going to run an amendment to raise the COLA to 1.5%. And because retirees are taking the biggest hit, they need to increase the COLA. And so to pay for the COLA, they're going to do an employee increase of 1%, and they're raising the retirement age to 65. They're not going to change the makeup of the para board, but they're adding more oversight on the FPPA side. And then they're going to take the DC plan out, which is the piece that CEA has the most heartburn over. So all of that will be debated tonight, and then tomorrow we'll have sort of an updated version of the bill for you all to talk about.
What's DC?
That's the defined contribution plan. So right now in the school district division, you all only have access to the para. You don't have a DC option, whereas other divisions do.
That's what CU does, right? They have
Right.
a DC. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Did the trigger language stay in so that it gives the para board the ability to adjust within a certain percentage range up and down? Do you know?
Yeah, the auto adjust.
The auto adjust,
Yep,
yeah.
that's going to be included tonight as well. Mm-hmm. That wasn't in the original para bill. And I have this little cheat sheet I can share with you all if you'd like it.
Other questions, board members? Okay. All right.
Great.
Thanks so much.
Well, I just want to thank you all for being so helpful during this legislative session. Cindy and your team, you've been all really great. Bill, Leslie, Melissa, thank you for just being so responsive to all of our requests, because I know we hound you guys a ton. especially on all the K-12 funding and para stuff. So just really appreciate it. And then Cindy, just want to thank you for being so great and helpful to us this legislative session. It's been a pleasure to work with you. So thank you all.
And I just want to say thank you. The few times I've been down there, it's just wonderful to see yours and Tanya's faces in the crowd because you're always so helpful and your information has been really accurate and up to date. And I know there's a million moving targets, so we really appreciate all that you've done to help keep us up to date on this and keep us informed. So it's just been a pleasure working with both of you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks. Okay, now we have another information item, an update on multi-tiered system of supports.
Good evening, Dr. Stevenson and President Marquis and members of the board. My name is Maya Jorgensen. I'm the Director of Student Success, which includes MTSS as a component. And we are, let me make sure I'm up. Can you, yep, let me go back to the beginning here. We began our work on MTSS, so my goal tonight is to give you just a brief, very brief update on where we are. We began our work in 2015 with MTSS by adopting CDE's version and visual of MTSS, so it's not unique to BVSD, and it does include the 5 different components that you see here in this visual. MTSS is essentially a framework, so it's not a curriculum, it's not a program, but instead of framework, a structure where we other components are included underneath it, including these 5. So the 5 listed there, I wanted to give you just some quick examples of what the 5 components look like for BVSD specifically. So in terms of layered continuum of supports, we've created some systems in literacy and are starting some systems in our social and emotional learning that are both all at the universal, targeted, and intensive. So there's 3 different layers. We are database problem solving. We've done, as you know, years of work now with VisLab, which is really now in every school, and most of our teachers are being trained in that. Our literacy adoption this year, we're very excited about in MTSS because it helps us with our evidence-based practices. And this year we're also including a family component of that new adoption material to create some robust conversations with families around those new materials, as well as some conversations at our middle level with student interventions. So the first thing we did in 2015 was create a vision, and I won't read it out loud to you, but some of the highlights that we're proud of. It's the foundation of a safe, inclusive learning environment, which we talk about a lot today. We created clear processes for instruction and layered interventions, so we've got a lot of that in place. And it really is a program that is based on students. It is about personalized learning for all students. So it includes our TAG students, our emerging bilingual students. It's not just a framework that supports our struggling students. So the work began with making sure that structures and support are becoming a practice in every classroom in all of our schools. We have a number of teams, which is part of MTSS, the team building component of it. So we have 2 teams at the district level that support schools. Then we have a larger group of about 85 administrators and different people from buildings that come monthly, and we help them support their schools with the MTSS process. We have one coming up in May. We do a lot of individualized trainings at schools, so we go when schools request our support around MTSS in general or their school support team, which we refer to as SST. We've done quite a few individualized schools this year. I'd say upwards of about 70% of the schools we've visited this year and talked about MTSS. We have a nice, robust website, which we linked here for you to look at. It has good resources on it for social and emotional learning, as well as some good literacy resources. And there's a section for parents, as well as a section for staff. And we have some documents that we use in Frontline to support teachers as they have student conversations and look at student data. So our goal, our strategies this year and our work around MTSS were centered around the UIP goals, which you're all very familiar with. But the key component was in two of the different components of the strategies, the schools got to pick their own growth area. So one of the areas was using the Culture and Climate Walkthrough Tool or the PBIS Tiered Fidelity Tool. And so they're setting some goals around those tools that they used. They also used some data that we gathered last year through the MTSS process to set goals. And then there was a focus on the supporting the team that supports students and intervening with students. And we, as I said, developed some documents in Frontline that were supportive of the schools during those meetings. So our next steps for the next, certainly next year and onward, we want to continue to refine that student support team process. That's really in our schools, how we have our conversations about kids, what kind of interventions we use to support students. That's a vital part of MTSS. So we're going to continue to refine that, have conversations with schools about that. This year we're setting some goals in supporting social and emotional learning. So schools are going to set some of their own priorities around that work. We're still supporting the work of VisLab, obviously, which is where that's our data component that we use in our support team meetings. We're going to refine the documents in Frontline this year with a lot of feedback that we've gotten specifically from teachers. So we're going to make some changes for those documents. And then we're really this year focused in the upcoming year, focused on our communication with families. So around those new adoption materials and just sort of really having some deeper conversations with parents about the support that students are receiving in the classroom. And then in closing, I just want to recognize that you all have supported MTSS, and I think we've seen schools respond to us in a very positive way about the work, and I appreciate your continued support. I can answer questions if you have any.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Question, Kathy?
So how are we measuring whether MTSS is providing the kinds of goals and outcomes that we're hoping to see? I know we're only in year 3, but I would think we'd start to see some kind of progress or lack of progress. I'm just curious how we're looking at that.
Yeah. So at this point, we've been putting in structures and systems to support the processes of MTSS, and it's taken us really up to this 3rd year to have those in place. We didn't want to introduce schools to a system without providing the basement level of support for them to do the work. But next year we have some conversations that we've already started with Jonathan around finding out ways that we can measure it. We have a lot of anecdotal data from schools, but that is a goal for us for next year, to really figure out how is the SST process, is the MTSS process, what kind of impact is it making for students? Yeah.
I don't discount anecdotal evidence, so what are you, is it positive? Are there concerns? What is that looking like too?
There's, once schools see the supports that we have, once we go out and do some individualized trainings, we have had nothing but positive comments from teachers. So it's sort of, once they see it in action and how it can help them really formulate their conversations when they're talking about students, which is, it's not always an easy thing to do, to move through students quickly and have a valuable conversation, as well as how to communicate those conversations to include parents as well. So once they've seen the structures in place for that, we've had very, very positive feedback from them. And then a number of our principals contacted me when they heard that I was coming here tonight to say that it's really, instead of business as usual, what the process did was it opened their eyes to different ways of talking and communicating about all students, but particularly about our special pops. So our emerging bilingual students having that culturally responsive lens. Our gifted students are seeing more differentiation, and even our students, our students that are being identified with dyslexic behaviors. This system for differentiating instruction for students is really opening their eyes to new ways of doing it instead of business as usual. Yeah, but I appreciate that question, and that is going to be a focus for us next year.
Okay. Shelley?
Thank you for your presentation. So, over the years, we've kind of struggled a little bit with what types of behavioral programs to use in the schools, and different SEL concepts, and and those have come under scrutiny. Ones that we thought were good are now coming under scrutiny. So I think where we finally landed was, let's just give schools more counselors, because we think that that's probably the most impactful. But I see here under next steps that you've got goals, set goals supporting behavior and social emotional needs for students. And I'm wondering what kind of goals you're expecting the schools to set, and what that looks like. Because we're also interested in knowing whether the investment we're making in counselors is making a difference, and how we could measure that.
Absolutely. So that will come out. The idea for that came out of the conversations around next year's UIP goals. And so the idea was, through a culturally responsive lens, that schools would land on a strategy, pick a strategy that would support relationships and connectedness in their community, and we're working on providing them a list of strategies to support that. So not a list of programs, but a list of strategies that they could choose from. And then the idea would be that they would choose one at the universal level and support that school-wide. And so there's various ways you can do that, and we're working, Dr. Messier and I are working with a team to kind of put together what that list would look like.
The list of strategies.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, other comments or questions? Richard?
On the next steps, on your last bullet point, you have strengthened communication with families regarding the progress of students. Are you working with Ari and the families and educators together?
Yep. The great thing about MTSS is it's about students. It's not about departments. So I work closely with our language department. I work closely with Ari. We're all on a team. Ari's on our team, our social and emotional learning team. So we really, we've broken down some of the, MTSS has helped us break down some of those silos, as well as help the schools break down some of those silos to work together more as a team. So yes, Ari and I have offices next to each other, and we collaborate quite a bit.
Okay. Anything else, Richard? Okay. All right. Any other questions? Well, thanks so much.
Yeah,
This was
thank you
great.
guys. Thank you very much.
Okay. Board members, do you need a break, or shall we carry on? Okay, we're going to take a break, 5 minutes. Okay. Great. All right, so our next item are our action items, our consent grouping, and I'm going to read the list of items. 7.1, approval of minutes, April 5th, 2018. 7.2, approval of minutes, April 10, 2018, regular meeting. 7.3, approval of minutes, April 10, 2018, special meeting. 7.4, approval of minutes, April 17, 2018, special meeting. 7.5, acceptance of donation, Superior Elementary. 7.6, approval of revised board policy JKA, use of physical intervention and restraint. 7.7, award of contract for bond-funded improvements for pre-construction services, fabrications and installation of a metal building for the central kitchen. 7.8, Citizens Bond Oversight Committee membership. 7.9, contract amendment for asbestos abatement at Fairview High School. 7.10, contract amendment to the architectural design and engineering services contract for bond-funded improvement work at the central kitchen and education center. 7.11, contract for construction at Columbine Elementary School. 7.12, non-renewal of contract. 7.13, grant, food service, greenhouse environmental education, U.S. Environmental Protection Agency 18. Any items board members would like to pull from consent grouping? Okay, hearing none, could I get a motion?
Richard moved. I'll second.
Yep, and second, okay. And discussion?
Kathy, you second? Okay.
And do we have questions? Shelley?
I have questions about 7.7, 7.8, and 7.10.
Okay.
So on the central kitchen, can someone explain like what 7.7 has to do with 7.10?
Rob? Thank you.
And then maybe while you're thinking about that one, Rob, just also, I just noticed that the construction budget for the kitchen is now like 14, Phase 2 is $14.8 million, right? And a year ago when it came, Phase 1 was 9.6. And I didn't see any discussion in the board package about what Phase 2 is. There's just the amendment to.
Let me comment on
back up.
7.7. So
Yeah.
7.7, the central kitchen will be a pre-engineered metal building. So we have to bring on a subcontractor to design that metal building in collaboration with the architect. So that's that piece of it.
So it's in addition to the actual central kitchen, or it is this?
It is the central kitchen.
It's the shell of the central?
It is the shell of the
Okay.
central kitchen, yes. So
Gotcha.
that's what 7.7 is, design, erection, and installation of the metal building.
And it wasn't in part of the original?
It was.
It
It's
was
part of
part.
the original bond scope, that's
Okay.
correct.
But it's, so why is it coming to us separately then?
Because again, we have the architect on board. We do not have a contractor on board. So
Okay.
we will hire the metal building as a separate contractor. And then when we have the general contractor on,
Gotcha.
we'll marry those two
Okay.
up, and they'll have to partnership on that project.
Okay.
Yep.
And then if you could address this Phase 1, Phase 2 amendment.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so Phase 1 of R&L's contract was to design the central kitchen and master plan the entire campus. Phase 2 is to design the education center, which
Oh,
was
okay.
in the master plan.
Okay.
So that's Phase 2 of that. We will start that work in June.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yep. Anything you wanted me to comment on 7.8? Did you
see
have a
if I-
question on that?
Yeah, I do. So
Can I have a question about the education center?
Yeah.
Yep.
For the education center design, will the board be asked for input on the boardroom? Are you redoing the boardroom?
We will redo the boardroom.
Okay.
We don't know what it's going to look like. We will start that process in June. So yes, we will be asking for input. We'll have small subcommittees, and then we'll have a full design advisory team on that.
Okay,
Yep.
because I might have some input on that.
Yeah, can we be the design advisory team for the boardroom?
That's right. We will do that.
Mostly chairs, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're hoping that, the boardroom becomes a flexible space where this could really only be used as a boardroom. that this is used in collaboration with other spaces.
That'd be good.
Okay.
Yep.
Pardon me, Shelley, go ahead.
That's it? Okay. So I'm just, I'm a little confused about this whole CBOC process at this point.
Okay.
So this time, it looked like 2 members were coming off, but we were adding 4. So I have just questions about the membership.
Right.
So, and then we also had the option of adding people, it looked like. So I'm just wondering, can the board increase the number of CBOC members, or is it established? Does it shift from year to year? I'm just a little unclear about that.
Right now, the charge of CBOC is to have 20 members. So that's, right now, we have 17. We are requesting, or we have put forward to you 4 members, because what we're finding is 1 or 2, they still want to be on the committee, but they're not attending all of our meetings. So we had recommended a 4th, and that is just in case somebody else drops off mid-year and we don't go through the full application process. So we will be up to 21. I will follow your lead if you want to add somebody else.
So what did you do in the past when somebody would drop off in the middle of the year? Wouldn't you just
We
fill?
would leave it at, if we lost one, we would leave it at 19, and then we'd reassess when we get to that 2 or 3 year term.
Okay. All right, so when somebody's term is over, do they have to reapply?
No, we allow them to stay on if they would like to. We actually encourage them to stay on the committee if their term is over.
Okay, and that's not a process, that's not something you need to check in with the board on, since we're so.
We have never brought that to you before.
Okay. All right, so then my other question was, I sent you a letter, I sent Cindy a letter saying that several people had contacted me and said that they had been rejected before we had this meeting tonight where we were supposed to approve the members. And I understand why you did that. I get the principle of why you did that, but it seems like next time we go through this process, the letter might read a little differently.
Yep.
Instead of you've been rejected, it's like you're not moving forward, but the board will be, approving.
Right.
There's some different language
We'll
that.
revise that process.
Yeah, okay, that would be good.
Yep.
I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, other questions or concerns, board members? Okay, hearing none, can we call the vote, Laura?
Benford. Fuqua.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Gebhardt.
Yes.
Marquis.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so our next item is action item number 8, consideration of and potential action on a contract for superintendent. And we need a motion to approve the contract.
So moved.
Second, Shelley. And any questions or discussion? Okay, great. Laura, do you want to call the vote?
Benford.
Yes.
Fuqua.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Gebhardt.
Yes.
Marquis.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion passes.
Well, that's exciting. Now, one thing I realize is that our contract was in the executive content, which means you couldn't see what's in the contract because it was still considered private, and now we can make it public, is my understanding. Is that okay? So I'm sorry for that. I thought it was public, and I think I had communicated that, but it wasn't public for this process. So, all right. So then our next item is Resolution 1815, approving with conditions the Summit Academy Charter application. Laura or Melissa, do I start with a motion for approval? Okay, so do I have a motion to approve?
I'd like to move that we approve the resolution.
Okay, and do I have a second? Shelley. Okay, great. Discussion, questions? Okay, Kitty?
Yes, I am not going to be supporting this resolution for a number of reasons. One, the Summit community came to us and asked if they could present even earlier than would be typical, and their application had a lot of deficiencies in it. So that's a concern to me, just that they would present something that had so many deficiencies. And I understand we have all of these provisions in the resolution about, how if they have to find a facility, they have to figure out how they're going to get enough special ed, FRL, ELL students. And there's concern about transportation, depending on where the facility ends up being. And I might support this if it didn't have a clause at the bottom that really lets this become an open-ended process. This could go on for years, theoretically, and I don't think that's a good idea. I would encourage Summit to go back, fix the deficiencies, and reapply with an application that will actually work. And so those are my concerns.
Okay. Other questions or concerns, board members? Kathy?
I will be a hesitant yes, but I have a caution that relates to paragraph 2 related to the funding provisions in the resolution. And part of this is based on what I have felt to be not harmonious conversations about sharing of mill levy monies and not accurate representations about what the sharing of the mill levy money would look like. I personally support differentiated funding based on student need as our starting point for having conversations about that, and I don't think that that has been accurately discussed and brought forward. I can't help you develop your budget, but I really caution you to develop a budget that's not based on increasing revenues. I, for one, worry that we have a very positive financial outlook this year because the state's in a financial upturn and we have a lot of money. I don't see that going into the future. I see us being revenue restricted because of Tabor limits and potential recessions coming up. I don't think, I'm worried about declining enrollment for the district. We're also capped out on our mill levies, so we're not able to go back and ask for additional mill levy money. So I see, for Boulder, I see flat, if not declining revenue potentially in the future, and I really worry that you would build a budget and expect us to support an increasing budget, and that's based in part on the conversations we've had around the mill levies. And so I hope that we can have a positive and open conversation about what the funding requests are from the district. That's not reflective of the conversations we've had in the past. So I'm just putting that out there, hoping that we can turn this into a more positive conversation and one that's based on, I know we all have our own crystal balls. Mine isn't quite as rosy as others, and looking at the future of funding for K-12 going forward. So that's what I have to say.
Okay. Shelley?
So, Kathy, I agree with you about the future of funding for K-12 education, but I just have a question about I think it's paragraph 2 or the numbered paragraphs, right, on page 2? Is that what you're talking about? Item number 2. So what about that language is concerning to you? Is it the actual language of the contract, or is it the past discussions we've had on?
It's the past discussions. That leaves it pretty open. Yeah, the language is just that we're going to talk about funding, and so I use that as a way to talk about my concerns around the funding.
Okay.
Sam?
Yeah, I'll be a yes vote. I think the staff has placed the appropriate conditions on this. I think the Summit community has stated their willingness to work to meet those conditions. So I'm okay going forward. I appreciate Kathy's caution very much, but I'm supportive at this point.
Shelley?
Yeah, I'm supportive too. And Kitty, I would just say that I think when you're putting together something as complicated as this application is, or any charter school application, that there's probably areas that you can't completely anticipate. And I think the district did a good job of looking at it and making suggestions. But I don't really see that as a failing of that they didn't have a crystal ball to see everything that could have, been an issue. So I happen to know this team, and I know what a great job they've done at Summit Middle School. I don't have any doubt that they can really create a really fantastic school. So,
Yeah, and I guess my biggest concern is there is no definitive end to this. It could theoretically go on 3 years or 4 years, and we don't know what's going to happen in that amount of time. It gives the deadline of the 2019, but then they could go to 2020, and then in the fourth paragraph, you can adjust the timeline to anything.
right, but I don't think that really impacts us. I mean, it's going to impact them because they're going to have to keep working at it till they can make it happen. But once we give
but then
approval,
we have a pending school that may or may not open,
That's
and
right.
we could be getting other charter applications. I just don't feel comfortable making a decision that leaves it so open-ended, potentially.
Okay, and then, so Kitty, you'd brought up, I just want to ask the other board members, on paragraph 4 on the last page, it states that the board or the school district superintendent may adjust any of the timelines at issue. Is everyone comfortable having that the board or the superintendent, or we could have it read the board?
I would too.
I would be more comfortable with it being the board.
Like the board. Sam, do you have a? I haven't liked policy in the past that has said or. I prefer to say the designee or the board specifically. This is more just to be consistent with where we've been headed with policy.
Well, I think it's consistent with the fact that we approve charters, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
So you want to take out superintendent? Is that-
Yeah, I would like to move to amend that we take out the word superintendent or the district superintendent, or we just choose that it's the district superintendent. Either way, just choose one.
Yeah, I would not feel comfortable without the board being the one making the decision.
Okay.
So I have a procedure question. So do we need to move to amend? Okay.
That's what we do, right? Yeah.
So can we do that now, or do we? So I would move to amend paragraph 4 on page 3 to remove the language or the school district superintendent.
In both instances?
Yes, in both instances.
Second.
Shelley seconds?
Shelley seconded.
seconded. Okay, now should we call a vote on the amendment?
On the amendment? I was the first. I was first, Shelley second.
Okay. Any discussion about this amendment? Okay, can we vote on that amendment? Do you want to call the vote? Now, we voting on the whole thing or just the amendment?
Just on the amendment.
Got it.
We're voting to amend paragraph 4 on page 3 to remove the school district superintendent from that paragraph. Those 3 words.
It appears twice.
It appears twice on that paragraph, line 3 and then line 5, it looks like.
Okay. Do you want to call the roll?
Benford,
Yes.
Fuqua,
Yes.
Garcia. Yes. Gebhardt,
Yes.
Marquis.
Yes.
Sergeant.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Any more discussion? Kathy?
Just have one more caution, and that is that I've just been troubled by the language and the rhetoric around some of the conversations we've had concerning the application. And the reason I'm a hesitant yes is I just try to keep focused on the kids and not on how the adults may characterize or mischaracterize kind of what they're doing. I get that kids need different opportunities, and I feel like we're lucky to be able to offer the options we already do offer for our kids. So I just hope that the language and the rhetoric going forward will be more all-encompassing and less in the way that it's been framed in the past.
Okay. Other comments or discussion? All right. Laura, should we call a vote on the amended resolution?
Benford,
Yes.
Fuqua,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Gebhardt,
Yes.
Marquis.
Yes.
Sergeant.
No.
Motion
Okay.
passes.
All right. So there we go. We might have a new or expanded something. High school expanded or new. All right. Next is study items, our study items, and we have 9.1, study revised board policy ECA and regulation ECAR regarding video surveillance.
All right, good evening. You should have policy ECA, building and ground security, and regulation ECAR, video surveillance procedures in front of you. Building and ground security, this is the same policy that was presented to you at the April 17th work session. Nothing has changed since then. The purpose of this policy is to authorize the responsible and limited use of video surveillance cameras in certain areas of school buildings, their grounds, district property, and in school transportation vehicles. Regulation ECA-R, we've made two minor revisions as discussed at the April 17th work session. One of those being we deleted motion detection, as we stated that our cameras are typically off unless they sense motion and then they turn on. And then towards the back, we added requests for video or audio surveillance recordings that involve or are related to potential employee misconduct. Again, we stated at the April 17th work session that our buses would have audio recordings. Interior cameras, exterior cameras would not in our buildings. And then this afternoon, Sam, you brought up a fantastic question about cameras in our gymnasiums and auditoriums, and we would treat those as learning spaces. So what I would propose tonight is that we revise permissible locations. Indoor facilities would be revised as follows: entrances, exits, lobbies, hallways, administrative office areas, stairwells. We would strike gymnasiums. Cafeterias, we would strike auditoriums and other common areas. And then we would add gymnasiums and auditoriums to the impermissible locations.
Thank you for that. And colleagues who I didn't CC on the email, I had a PE teacher point out to me that gymnasiums are their classrooms. And so he felt it was an inconsistent standard because we've, in the regulation, prohibited cameras in individual classrooms, but a PE teacher's in a gymnasium, that is their classroom, and so they would be surveilled in there potentially under the language that was in the regulation, but has now been proposed to be eliminated. Does that, you follow me?
Sam, I'm fine with that, with the caveat that if, after we've implemented this, if principals or others come to us and feel a need to put cameras, and I totally agree that you don't want cameras in there for instruction, but there's a lot of other things that happen in auditoriums and in gymnasiums where it might be helpful to have cameras, so that we would revisit this so that it's not a never, but that for now that's how we'll proceed. Because I know that some districts have cameras in gymnasiums and it works fine, and other districts don't. So I'm fine with your proposal, but I don't want it to be something we don't ever revisit if the need arises.
But there will be cameras in the cafeteria?
There will be cameras in the cafeteria, that's correct. Yep.
Don't teachers usually or sometimes use the cafeteria as classrooms or places of instruction?
You know, Richard, I think we got to be somewhat careful because learning occurs in numerous spaces in our buildings, right? And that's where, you know, we have pull-out, break-up groups that come out into the corridors, for example. We will have cameras in the corridors. So I think we have to be somewhat careful on how we word this, but knowing that learning does take place in the gymnasiums and auditoriums, I think that's the right call right now. But I think the cafeterias, the corridors, the exits, the stairwells, et cetera, we deserve to put cameras in those spaces.
Okay, other questions? Shelley?
Yeah, I think that was a good recommendation, Sam, and as I recall, I didn't have that in my original. You guys added that in.
Well, I added that,
Yeah.
yes, and now we'll take that back out. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
So, when we first saw this red line copy, we were in a work session,
Right.
and so I didn't really have time to read it deeply. So I do have a couple of tweaks that I'd like to recommend, in addition to what Sam's recommending. And that, so on page 1, the third paragraph.
Are we on the regulation?
I am on the policy.
Okay.
Not the reg. So let me go to that. So I think it's page 1, third paragraph. I would just add to where we say how it's justified. Where's that sentence? Yeah, on the end of the third paragraph, ongoing vandalism, theft data, and other relevant information. See that line?
Yep.
I think I would like if that started with included cost of installation and use / ongoing vandalism, theft data, and other. That should be included in the consideration, the cost of it. So I would add that, and I can send you these changes so you don't have to keep track of them. But and then on the reg on page 2. Where is it? I don't see page numbers on here. Guess there's not, so.
Yeah, there's not.
But it's page 2 under biometric and other systems of surveillance. We had talked about taking out the motion detection.
Right.
And then there was a question about like what actually tracking is if it's not motion detected. And I think it would be useful to just put the word location in front of tracking. And then that makes it clear what tracking is, you know, it's tracking people's location. I just think it would be helpful. And then on page 3, I think under video monitoring, it says that video monitors shall be located in an administrative office at the school and in the district's central security office. And I think what that should probably say is may be located, because there could be situations where people would not want that, or where the school may not request it. So we might as well just put may. It's allowed if people request it, is what I'd rather see that say. And then on page 4, under storage, it says video recordings will be stored for a minimum of 10 school days. I think that was always intended to say maximum, and I am not sure how that slipped by, but, and I think it should say a maximum of 10 business days, not school days, because you can imagine if something happened the week before school let out in the summer or something, that wouldn't technically be a school day anymore, but it would be a business day. So I think just to make sure that those videos aren't stored for too long, because that's where this whole privacy issue comes in. And then paragraph 4, I think that the language that tapes will be released for released for erasure is really, it's not really a tape. That's kind of outdated language already, so it probably should say something like recordings will then be designated for erasure. And then on page 5, I think we can delete the line that says video recordings may be viewed by persons other than the superintendent under the following conditions, because the whole section before that describes access. So it'll make more sense, I think, when I send this to you.
Okay.
But it's just kind of pointless to put that in there. And then the last one is on page 6, under law enforcement. I think that it says law enforcement officials may review audio and video recordings, including those classified as education records. But this was sort of related to, an emergency event. And so I think that language probably should say law enforcement officials may review audio and video recordings related to that event, including those classified as education records. Because right now, it doesn't connect law enforcement's ability to look at those with the actual event that occurred. It just leaves it wide open. So those are my recommendations, and I'd be happy to send them to you so you can look at them in more detail. Thanks.
Yeah, I have a comment back, Shelley, on the surveillance, is that if we take out minimum of 10 days, then they could theoretically be erased the next day. So I think we want to say they need to be there 10 days, and if, so say no less than and no more than, or exactly. Yeah, but, I think we need to know that they will be there 10 days. Right.
The whole idea, right?
Right,
They
but if
would
it
be,
doesn't
so.
say it, you could theoretically erase it the next day.
Is there
Be okay with me.
Yep.
Is there a recommendation on how long we should have them?
When I get Shelley's markups, well, I like the idea of the range,
Yeah.
in lieu of putting a min and max this. And we can set parameters and delete recordings, so we can put that range in, and our software will allow us to do that, so.
Automatically,
Yep.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because, I mean, and just for any kind of fluke, I would hate for someone, if it happened on day 15 instead of day 14.
Right.
That there's some
Yep.
major issue.
So, and I just want to say too that, I took some time to go over this again, and I just, again, really appreciate the district, working with
Well,
us on this policy. And I also want to thank someone named Kevin Reardon, because he's been following this whole process, and he wrote to me and suggested a couple of tweaks today, so I want to thank him for that.
I just have a question, Shelley, because most of your changes I tracked, I couldn't track the last one, the law enforcement one.
Let me see if I can find it. It's on I think it's on the last page. No, where it says law enforcement.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it?
Second to last page.
Second to last page.
No, I see the caption. I'm just trying to figure out what the proposed changes.
So after, on the fourth line.
Okay, where
the
it says may review
commas,
audio and
review
video.
audio and video recordings.
Mm-hmm.
So you see the line before that, it refers to the event, in the event of a health or safety emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Law enforcement can access these video feeds. Okay? And then I just think it would be helpful to put, what was the language, related to the event, the health and the emergency event, and not just leave it more wide open. It feels like it's a little nebulous to me, like they could just access whatever they want and not related to the event.
Even though, I mean, I'm fine with, but the sentence starts out, I think limits it, because it says in the event of, but I'm fine with, I just didn't track where you were putting the change, so thank you.
Okay, other thoughts? Anyone? Well, with those changes, I think this would come to our next board meeting to vote on
Yep.
final. Is that right? Okay. If you have thoughts or questions in the interim, I think you can send them to Cindy. All right. And then, if we can move on to agenda setting. So we had our prioritization workshop last week, and so there'll be a survey that Heather will send out about what the priorities are that we spoke about. Any other things that are missing or that you need to have an RFI or that you missed from the quarterly prioritization that you want me to throw on since we haven't sent it out yet?
Okay, I know that one of the things on there was this fracking issue, and I wonder if we maybe, I don't know, need to make it more specific with respect to oil and gas setbacks.
You mean like the legislation that's going through?
We're discussing that, and I'm not sure the timing of that in relation to our quarterly planning session, but I think we need to have a conversation about that, whether it's, and it should be timely, otherwise there's no point, so.
I mean, I don't think we're going to make it in time for this round of legislation.
Yeah.
Regardless. So I don't really know what to do with that. Because I'm not really sure, how would you all imagine the conversation going?
That somebody would come and tell us exactly what the bill is saying, and that we all get on the same page with that.
You're talking about the bill that's going through right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the testifying opportunity is Thursday.
Well, I know, the testifying is.
Yeah, so,
That's
one thing we could do is just ask Tanya and Ernestine to provide us an update, and by email. And I think they can do that. That's part of what they do. And then we can look at that and go right from there. That might be the fastest way.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll take a note to email Tanya and Ernestine about the setback bill. And I think you'll notice that actually came from CASB, so I'll also send something to Matt Cook if he has any developments. And I think everyone has their meeting scheduled with Rob next week, and I'm pretty sure Donna was able to get on the schedule as well. Is there anything else? I think she'll be back by then. Anything else for agenda setting? Yes, Kathy.
So, my apologies for having to leave early yesterday, but I understand there's going to be an MOU looking at equity and funding around equity and special populations. And so I would just like to figure out a way to see if we want to have a better conversation about that. because I think it feeds into a lot of the conversations that we've been having. So I was wondering if we could add that just to the prioritization.
So you would add it on the survey that Heather would distribute? And what do you want to do? Equity funding as related to the BVEA MOU?
Sure.
Okay. Another question I had was whether, so right now we have scheduled for January a work session with Rob for July. And we usually take July off, and I'm wondering if anyone would have the capacity in June to meet with him as a board. This is just a board retreat type of, 4 hours about how we communicate. Because he starts July 1, and the idea, so if he comes out a second time in June, I'm wondering if we can fix the schedule so that we can get on board with Rob as a board before his actual start date. So that's, we can do this via a doodle poll, but just in general, if we find the time and if we can coordinate it with Rob, lots of ifs. Are people open to that?
Well, would it make some sense just to see how it goes for a couple of months and make this in the fall, the retreat in the fall?
We could. We might want to talk about our communication and expectations with Rob as a board. I don't think we want to wait too long. I think we do need to spend time with Rob.
Yeah, I agree that it would be wise to set it out at the very beginning, just because then everybody will have the same expectations and will know how things are going to proceed.
My understanding is also he wants to talk about the 100-day entry plan and get board feedback on that as well. So.
I would support a doodle poll for June. I'm not excited about meeting in July.
Okay, so we have a thumbs down on July. I heard another one there. Okay, so I'm going to see what happens, and we'll figure out what we can do. And
it's not no way, no how July, but if we can avoid it.
Okay.
It's not that I don't enjoy spending time with all of you.
Yeah, what am I going to do if I don't have something to do Tuesday nights in July?
All right, well, we'll look into it. I just wanted to see if it's a possibility, so I will look into it. Any other comments? Okay, I'd like to adjourn this meeting.